You're tuning into Black and White Sports on YouTube. The no-holds-barred truth on sports. The main event starts.
All right, Black and White Sports supporters. Well, we are going to talk about an interview that Stephanie White, the coach of the Indiana Fever, had to do with local media up in Indianapolis. Query and Company. Now, I don't know if she went on here because she thought it was Query and Company, and she said, oh, this sounds like my jam. Maybe she got confused. But it's nice to hear actual sports radio media, in the way I'm used to hearing it, actually throw some fastballs at Stephanie White. They didn't ask. I listened to the first few minutes of this and I was like, oh, we're asking real legitimate sports radio media questions. And the reason I don't distinct with the media that's on TV is they refuse to ask any real questions too, in most cases. But radio will get after it from time to time. And I heard this and said, oh, this is interesting. So I have stopped it and went back a little bit. Let's listen to this. We'll listen to it together. It's kind of lengthy, but we're going to roll.
Now won 3 in a row. It is obviously tomorrow night at the Fieldhouse. The Valkyries are, if I'm saying that correctly. Valkyries. Which are we going with, Eddie?
Valkyries.
And I know it's Golden State, yes. But either way, tomorrow night, and you've won 3 straight, Coach. The first question would be this, and that is, what, if anything, has been different? What has clicked that maybe eluded you at the outset of the season?
So I think we're better defensively than we have been. We've got some bodies back that they're not on minutes restrictions anymore, and so substitution patterns are becoming a little bit more fluid. And we're still working through some of that, but at the same time, I think that there's been consistent minutes and more consistent rotation in our lineups, and that's resulted in us really starting to become a little bit more connected on the defensive end and on the offensive end.
Interesting, because I think their offense, when Caitlin Clark has taken over, has looked pretty good. I don't think they've looked good at all defensively this season, in my opinion. So that's a little strange that she believes it's coming together. Okay.
There was, obviously when you have a star like Caitlin Clark, there is going to be consistent scrutiny and analysis in all areas, right? And when she misses a game due to a late minute scratch, if you will, I went back and saw, and I think it was on May 9th, you had made comment almost foreshadowing, I don't mean that, but that, hey, there are certain areas in a player where there's going to be the occasional game like that, right? I mean, there are going to be tweaks that happen over the course of a season with the player. Were you surprised by the scrutiny that came with her missing a game?
I was. I mean, it happens all the time. And in fact, I think Kevin Durant was a late scratch for game 1 of the first round of the playoffs. It's the nature of sport. And I think those who haven't been an athlete, those who haven't been injured, those who haven't gone through the rigors of what it means to go through the process of being a professional athlete, let alone coming back from injury. There are things that flare up all the time. And so I was surprised, but, we talk to our players all the time about we control the things that we can control, and we can't control that. We can't control the outside noise. We can just make sure that we're prepared to play a ball game.
Okay. So if she did not realize the amount of blowback she was going to take, is she even paying attention? It's one thing to say we're not going to pay attention to the the noise out across social media and everything. But they got destroyed over what happened last year and how they handled that Caitlin Clark injury. Remember, there was an injury, their groin injury. Day to day. And then 6 weeks, 8 weeks into that, we think Caitlin Clark's getting ready to come back. And then Scott Agnes or somebody like that, I think it was Agnes, all of a sudden dropped that there was an ankle injury or something of that going on. We were like, wait a minute, where did this come from? And all of these fans, like what happened this week when they set her out unexpectedly out of nowhere, all these fans are traveling long distances. This week, a woman reached out to me and said, I came in from Montana to watch Caitlin Clark play. If they are not aware of what the repercussions and the backlash is going to be, if they out of nowhere set this player of all players, is this franchise still not prepared to handle the stardom that is Caitlin Clark? Or do they still not know what they're doing? They have to understand people are traveling a very long way. People are spending a lot of money. People are scheduling their vacations around coming in and watching her play. And by the way, Kevin Durant set out game one, blah, blah, blah. If they did that for the sake of load management or whatever, no, man, get your ass out there and play in a playoff game. I don't want to hear that. You know, I mean, guys were sore. Again, I've talked about this. All the way up to about 2010 or something like this, before Greg Popovich ruined the NBA with load management. You take a basketball card, any basketball card of any superstar, turned over the basketball card, and all you see is 82 games played. They clearly do not understand the star power and the stardom that they're dealing with involving Caitlin Clark still. I mean, if that surprises her, that's shocking to me that that's a surprise. Are they not having meetings, not talking about this, not understanding what's going on? I'm floored. Sounds to me like they still don't know what they're doing.
For any player, especially at the professional level, how do you as a coach navigate or find the balancing act between applauding and promoting a competitive nature in an athlete while also making sure that there's a clear line of the authority within a system?
I mean, I think you just continue to have conversation. I mean, look, you don't want to take away the emotion of a game, of a competitor. That's the nature of the beast. But you also have to channel it and harness it, in a way that's beneficial to our team. There are plenty of fiery, competitive players out there, and our job as coaches is to continue to push and challenge and continue to navigate and help influence it in a positive direction.
You have three very talented, you have a lot of talented offensive players on this roster, but notably between Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, Aaliyah Boston, we've talked about it. You've got, I think, three really gifted offensive players. When you try to then really tighten the screws defensively, does sometimes schematically that come at the cost of your offense?
I don't think so. I think that when we're better defensively, it helps our offense because we're a team that wants to play with pace. We have great players that can play in the open floor. And if you're consistently taking the ball out of the net or putting people at the foul line, that stops your ability to play with pace. It stops your ability to do what you do best. I think that there needs to be an emphasis. You can't, this league is too good. We can't just outscore people and expect to win or expect to compete for a championship. We've got to be solid on the defensive end. We don't have to be the top defensive team, but we can't be at the bottom. And I think we've got to be solid enough to give us a chance. There are days when we're not going to make shots. There are days when things don't go our way on offense, and our defense has to always be consistent, and we've got to be able to rely on it, and it's got to travel.
Okay, I'm going to stop it right there. But I think that's pretty interesting that he asked, hey, how do you use your superstar player? Harness it. Team. Harness it. You mean put a governor on it? I mean, I don't know. That's why I still, she's talking about offenses and they want to play with pace. I don't know why she's talking about they want this team to play with pace, because unless Caitlin Clark is getting the ball and being the instigator of everything and moving it up and down the court. This team gets into those half-court situations, bogged down, and keep making the extra pass. That's not playing with pace. It's God. It's where basketball goes to die. I think we play with great pace and in transition. You do? Yeah, as long as Caitlin Clark says, bleep it, give me the damn ball and let me go instigate. So, wow. All right. I've got to wonder, is there an honest assessment going on from Stephanie White of what this team does and is? I've got my doubts. It is what it is. I know they won 3 games. That's great. But we'll see. This team lacks length still, and it lacks bench depth still. That's going to raise its head at some point, especially if you actually make it to the playoffs. If you make it to the playoffs. There's a lot more of this interview to listen to, so go over. You can check it out. Query and Company is the name of the radio show if you want to listen to the rest of it. Tell me what you think. Peace. I'm out. Till next time.
Thanks for watching the show. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to tune in next time on Black and White Sports.